That's pretty good for the minute. Okay, so the next thing, and pretty much the last thing, is actually where the LFO comes into play. Now, the LFO is obviously the most important part of this sound because it actually creates the movement. So first of all, we're going to set sync and then to 108. So I've got my BPM at about 120 or so. You can change it. In fact, let's just put it at 140. So the main purpose here is actually the position of where the wave starts when the LFO occurs. So I've set it about the trough, which is the lower part of the waveform, starts at the beginning, and the peak is in the middle, and then the trough back at the end. Now, the way we get this movement on the volume is we attach it to the sidechain of the amp. Now, basically what this does is, obviously you can't move it up or down because this is basically just on the volume, as you can hear. Now, obviously, if we move this to, like, for example, a saw wave, it's a lot more stabby. But we want this sort of smoother sort of waveform. So in which case, if you want to try something different and cool, you could try the stabby sort of plucky sound. I prefer the waveform, the sine wave, sorry. Now, the key to this sound is actually putting the LFO on pretty much everything. So we're putting it on the dry wet of the reverb. So we're kind of getting it up enough so it basically brings in the... it almost makes it a wider sound when the volume is actually active, if that makes sense. So when the sound is actually loud, when it's playing and not quiet, you know, in the peak of the LFO, the reverb is actually playing a lot louder. And the same with the dimension expander. So we'll whack this on here, maybe take it down, and maybe play some chords with it. And that's basically the sound. The only other thing you could do if you wanted to would be a bit of EQ and maybe add some low end, just so you don't have to add another bass in between there. So it could be something. And then also a bit of more high end if you need it. But that's pretty much the sound in a sense. It's not too much of a difficult sound. It's just how you utilize it basically. Now the cool thing about this is because it's very simple, you can do a lot with it. So for example, if you wanted to maybe add a comb filter so it kind of phases through, or a flanger or something, or change the waveform to maybe a square. You've got so many different variations of what you could do. Another cool thing I like is actually when you bring the pitch cutoff down a little bit more. So if we just bring it up, just hear the full velocity of what it can be. I like it just a little bit over because it gives it a sort of a closer sound, but it's still quite wide. But that's basically the sound. Now, that's just in the massive, but there's other things you can do to it. For example, you can compress it, or you can add some room reverb to it. It gives it a lot of different textures no matter what you do afterwards, but that's the basis of the sound.